Today we're going to be doing our grammar lesson on collective nouns. We have done several lessons prior to this on nouns. Remember, nouns are people, places, things, and ideas. Collective nouns specifically look at groups of people, places, things, or ideas. So collective nouns are group words. Now, the number in the group doesn't necessarily matter as long as there are multiple. You'll see here in a few minutes when we look at a few examples of these collective nouns that there do need to be several members of the group in order for them to make sense. One of the most familiar ways that we have seen collective nouns in the past is talking about groups of animals. This is something that we use quite frequently when referring to certain groups. So, for example, one lion is just called a lion, but if we have a group of lions, that would be called a pride of lions. So, pride is the collective noun referring to the group of lions. Now, here when we say that the number doesn't make sense, but you do need to have multiple, like if I just saw two lions, it wouldn't really necessarily make sense to say that, oh, that's a pride of lions. Okay, when we think about pride, we're looking at multiple. If we are referring to the animal of a goose and we see multiple of them, what would that group be called? It is a flock of geese. So flock being the collective noun there. A cow is another common one. We have a group of cows, we call that a herd of cattle. So herd is the collective noun. There are some animal groups that we're not super familiar with their collective nouns. One fun one is for hedgehogs. A group of hedgehogs is called a prickle of hedgehogs. And hippopotamus. If we have more than one hippopotamus, it is called a bloat of hippopotami. So bloat is the collective noun. That's the group word that refers to multiple hippopotami. Collective nouns can also be used with people. So we looked at some animal examples, but they can also be used with people. If we were to have a group of soldiers, we may refer to them as an army. If we have just a large group of people gathering in one place, a collective noun that we could use to refer to them may be a crowd. If we have a group of football players or footballers, as it says on the slide, that could be referred to as a team. And all of you together in one classroom are a group of school children, but I would just refer to you as a class. So again, these deal with people rather than animals. It can be used for both. Now, collective nouns can be singular or plural depending on how they are used in a sentence. So obviously, as stated before, collective nouns are groups. So there are multiple people in a group, but we can use them singularly if we're talking about the group as one. So one group is doing one thing. Or collective nouns can be plural if we've got members of a group doing slightly different things, and we'll see those in the next couple of slides. So we're going to start by looking at it in the singular sense. So follow along with this top left section as I read it. It says collective nouns are considered singular when everyone in the group acts as one. It is one single group. So we've got some examples of this down below. So we have the class was given the test on Monday. Class is our collective noun, but they all share one action. They were all given the same test. Everyone got it. There are no differences there. So it is one single group. Another example, we have the herd is grazing in the south field. If we refer back to a couple of slides earlier, herd could be a group of cattle. So we've got cows out grazing in the field. We've got the group word, the collective noun of herd. They are all doing the same action, which is grazing or eating in the south field. So there aren't any differences. They're all acting as one group. Another example here, we've got our soccer team will travel to Fort Dodge next week. Our collective noun is team. Okay, they're all going to go together. They're all going to make that same trip together on likely one bus to Fort Dodge. So there aren't any differences. They're acting as one single group. Now, to make sure that our sentence makes sense with our collective noun, if it's singular and everybody's acting as one group, you should be able to plug in the word it to the beginning of the sentence and it would make sense. So we take out our collective noun of the class and plug in it. It was given the test Monday. Sentence makes sense. Same thing here with number 2. We could plug in it for the herd. It is grazing in the south field. Makes sense. And we could plug in it for our soccer team. It will travel to Fort Dodge next week. If someone came up to you and said, it will travel to Fort Dodge next week, that sentence makes sense. Now, collective nouns are considered plural when members of the group act slightly differently. So there's still a group mentality, but there are slight differences in the actions as individuals themselves. So some examples here. Looking at the family clean their rooms. All right. I don't know about all of you, but if I have my family go clean their rooms in their house, everybody is going to be doing something slightly differently. Like my daughter may be picking up toys in her room. Well, I don't have toys in my room to be picking up. So cleaning up my room may be gathering laundry or vacuuming. Okay, so if we were all to go clean our rooms at the same time, we would be doing slightly different actions. We're all cleaning, but there are individual things that we're going to be doing differently in our cleaning. Okay, another example, the band tune their instruments before the concert. Band is our collective noun, but tuning instruments is going to look different for each member of the band depending on what instrument they play. So, for example, tuning a piano or a guitar is going to look different than tuning a trumpet. So, they're all tuning, but it's going to be slightly different. Okay, and our last example here, our litter of kittens have been making messes around the house. Litter is our group word referring to our group of kittens. However, if they're running around the house, they're likely going to be making messes in slightly different ways. Okay, now to plug in here to make sure that we're using the correct terminology for plural words is if we've got a group of individuals that are going to have slight differences, we're going to plug in the word they instead of the word it. So here we would say they clean their rooms, they tune their instruments, they have been making messes around the house. So just to jump back, we use it to plug in if everyone's doing the exact same thing and there are no differences. We plug in they if there are slight differences in the actions that are happening.